Wow. Fire-affected communities in regional Victoria are increasingly unable to secure affordable insurance to protect their homes and businesses. There are concerns the wildfire disaster in Los Angeles will only compound the problems with the global insurance pool, making it unaffordable or completely out of reach for customers. Joining me now is Shadow Assistant Minister for Regional Development Anne Webster. Dr. Webster, thank you for joining me. And, let's start by talking about insurance reform. Why is that so important for regional Victoria after the February and also December fires?
Well, Lei, thanks so much for having me on. I've just come back from Halls Gap, visiting with Peter Dutton and Dan Tehan and Perrin Davey, all with their roles, and Dan, of course, being my neighbour in the electorate of Wannon, to meet with small business owners and to hear what they're saying. And they made it very clear that it's not a matter of not being able to afford the insurance, although that is an issue. It is not being able to get insurance at all. Now, we all know that if you want to take out a bank loan, then you have to have insurance, or the banks will not look at you. So we have businesses, wonderful businesses, I have to say, in Halls Gap, who are actually looking at picking up stumps and leaving. The last thing that the Grampians needs right at this point in time is to lose its heart, and the heart is Halls Gap. Wonderful businesses, wonderful accommodation places, and we have insurance companies missing in action. On the other day, in the afternoon, I invited the Insurance Council of Australia plus the National Insurance Brokers Association, with brokers in the room and small businesses in the room, to discuss, to have a conversation about what is going wrong here. And the designation of high risk for the Halls Gap community when it has never been burnt. There has never been a fire in Halls Gap. Now, that ought to be taken into account, plus the mitigation measures that have been put in place with the fire break all around Halls Gap. It ought to be taken into account by insurers. But what we have is insurance companies looking at a digital map and digital tick boxes and saying, no, too high risk, we're not going to insure in Halls Gap, rather than actually going to those communities. And the local brokers can't get the insurance companies to come down and see what they're actually insuring. There is a market failure here in Halls Gap, and it's not the only place where we've had market failure. And I believe I'm having a lot of conversations right now with ministers and shadow ministers about our insurance set up the way we've got it. I believe there needs to be a serious inquiry into insurance companies in Australia. And you, just earlier, Lei, you had on the LA fires and the fact that people can't get housing. If you look into their situation with regard to insurance, it is a huge problem, and it needs to be addressed.
Yep, many of them can't get insurance either. But you're also calling on the Victorian State Government to seek federal disaster recovery funding assistance for those fire-affected businesses, right?
Absolutely. Business interruption is something that they can't access until, well, they can from their insurance policy if they have a rollover insurance from years ago. It's highly complicated, but those who don't have insurance, of course, can access nothing. The disaster relief funding assistance needs to come from the state government. We need Premier Allen to pick up the phone and trigger Category D. That is the exceptional circumstances for small businesses to be able to access some funding. What we have to understand is there were no fires in Halls Gap, but it was closed for a period of weeks. It was their peak period. They had hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of cancellations, and they have had no money coming in. That's a serious problem for a business, as we all know. If you haven't got income, you can't spend it. And so the DRFA Category D is really essential. Peter Dutton, when he was with me the other day, called on the state premier to trigger that request for Category D to the federal government. There is bipartisan support for that. I've been speaking with the Minister, Jenny McAllister. There is great interest at a federal level to be able to support that funding. We need Premier Allen to pick up the phone today and call for that Category D.
And we hope visitors will come back to that region as well. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Anne Webster,
Absolutely.
Shadow